You know, one of the real arts of bass fishing is finding fish on a new lake, or finding fish on a lake you haven't been to very many times, or even finding fish on a lake you've been to a lot but you just showed up first time that year, first time in a while. And so what happens is that you've got to get there and you've got to just figure it out. Well, where do you start? The first place to start is get on the internet and figure out what kind of lake you're fishing. Is it a lake that has grass? Is it a lake that has rock? Is it have wood, a lowland reservoir, a highland reservoir? And then go to the tournament websites and see what kind of tournaments have been on that lake, because that'll show you the kind of weights that are actually being caught. Is it 25 pounds winning most tournaments, 35 pounds winning most tournaments, or is it just 15 winning a tournament? That'll tell you a lot, because then when you catch a 2-pounder, it might be meaningful on a lake that's, say, got 12 to 15 pounds winning tournaments. But if you got 25 pounds winning tournaments, you know you need to be catching some 4 and 5 pounders. And I'm not just talking about for tournament fishing, I'm talking about for pure enjoyment of catching fish. You want to try to catch the best fish you can. And then when you get to the lake and you put your boat in the water, have a lot of rods rigged up. You see I've got a lot of rods rigged up in the background right here. You want a lot of options, because what I've found is if you've got to sit down and tie on a bait or get in the rod box and get a rod out to fish it, you're less likely to throw that bait. So if you get a lot of rods on the deck and then have a lot of options ready to go, whatever you think might work. And that's where I start. When I put my boat in the water and I start fishing, I start with something that's familiar to me. I'm gonna run to a place that it looks familiar and it looks good, and all you do at that point is just start fishing. Finding fish on a new body of water, or on a body of water you hadn't been to that much, is all about trial and error. You get out there, you make casts, and you either fail or you start catching fish. And each fish tells you something. So even when you're not catching any fish and you go an hour, well, that's telling you something. Maybe you were fishing shallow, or maybe you're fishing deep, and you can start in your mind eliminating that. Not necessarily totally eliminating it, but start thinking, well, I wonder if there's someplace else, someplace I'm not fishing. And so it's trial and error. You get out there, you start getting some bites, and once you get some bites, you start rolling a pattern together. Now, a really good pattern usually takes several days. You know, when I practice for a tournament, most of the time I've got 3 days, and it takes me 3 days in the start of the tournament most times before I really start figuring out what those fish are doing. That's what it really takes. And so keep an open mind. Even though you start getting bites, say on spinnerbait on the bank, is there other baits that might be better? Are they later in the day moving out? You think about all these things, and always be thinking about different things, because finding fish on a new lake, it's awful rewarding. When you can go out, find them on your own, catch a big stringer of fish, there's nothing like it.